Asante sana Quinto Wafula. Sasa turejee hapa jijini Nairobi ambapo chama cha mawakili nchini LSK kimetoa taarifa kuhusu kile wanachodai ni wirathi kuwa ongezeko la vifo vinavyosababishwa na maafisa wa polisi. LSK imeeleza kuwa hali hii inazua hofu kubwa miongoni mwa wananchi, huku ikihitaji hatua za haraka za kurekebisha mfumo wa usalama na uwajibikaji wa maafisa wa polisi. Sasa naomba tuvuke moja kwa moja hadi pale rais wa LSK Faith Odhiambo anazungumza na vyombo vya habari. Tusikie anasema nini.
Demonstrating against threats to deprive and dispossess them of their property and deny them their right to enjoy that property. On 28th of April 2025, 6 innocent Kenyans were killed in cold blood at the hands of rogue police officers. The Law Society of Kenya strongly condemns these criminal acts and calls for immediate action to investigate, identify and prosecute these criminal perpetrators within the police. Collectively, the foregoing occurrences and the reproach with which the relevant institutions and authorities have responded to the same are a cause of alarm for all Kenyans. For illustration, we are perturbed by the insensitive and thoughtless remarks that have been made by members of political class in addressing these crucial matters of national security and the state of constitutionalism. Our attention in this regard is drawn to the comments of the Member of Parliament for Mandera North, Mr. Bashir, while addressing Parliament, where he dismissed the killings of Kenyans and suggested that Kenyans and the world should move on. In a separate instance, the Member of Parliament for Homa Bay, Mr. Peter Kaluma, put out a statement making sparring accusations to the effect that the BBC was culpable for misinformation and should be banned from Kenya airwaves. The choir of absurdity has equally been joined by Member of Parliament for Dagoretti South, Mr. John Kiarie, who made despicable suggestions that one of Kenya's long-standing international allies had sponsored the BBC's recount of events, forming a dark part in our nation's history to advance some unqualified economic agenda. Such preposterous arguments and propaganda undermine the essence of parliamentary debate and put our country's august house in unnecessary disrepute and risk of ridicule. We remind elected representatives that the authority bestowed on them is held as a public trust and is for the benefit of the people of Kenya. Therefore, such contempt and haughtiness as we have witnessed is both shameful and undermines the obligations set out under Chapter 6 of the Constitution. We remind members of Parliament, in particular those who are members of the bar, that under Chapter 6 of the Constitution, their role is to represent the people and not to defend the oppressors. And their constitutional duty to provide oversight does not contemplate that they instead justify unconstitutional actions sanctioned and committed by those they ought to oversight. Further, we call on all our other members who are elected parliamentarians that they have a greater duty than their colleagues on account of their oath of office as advocates of the High Court of Kenya. That oath cements their immutable responsibility to uphold the rule of law, which is cradle to protecting the right to life. The Law Society of Kenya is apprehensive that if the current volatile situation within the public and the national security organs persists or is further exuberated, Kenyan sovereignty, democracy, and constitutional will be at the brink of imploding. Accordingly, it is the duty of every right-thinking citizen, especially those entrusted with the positions of power and service, to take urgent, deliberate, and objective action to end the menace of extrajudicial killings, bring its perpetrators to book, and find justice for all victims of these heinous criminal elements within our security organs.
We have taken note of a status update released by the Independent Policing Oversight Authority on the 28th of April 2025, highlighting the steps it has undertaken to address some 60 cases of police brutality that have been registered with the authority. From the face of the update, it appears that several of the cases have been or are currently undergoing investigation. Unfortunately, and for reasons not disclosed by the authority, nearly a year later, only 6 of the investigations have been completed and escalated to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and/or the courts. This statistic is not only underwhelming, it is well near proof of dereliction of duty. In such times, laxity, complacency, and lack of urgency are tantamount to complicity. IPOA has overstretched the grace and patience of the Kenyan public, and we hereby put the authority on notice that they run the risk of being liable for refusal to act in accordance with their mandate. Nevertheless, we acknowledge that the resolution of these matters requires a collective approach involving all stakeholders and citizens. In the circumstances, the Law Society of Kenya appreciates that the country is in dire need of a paradigm shift, and we therefore recommend and demand as follows. 1, that the National Police Service Commission and the Independent Policing Oversight Authority escalates the investigations into the mass killings perpetrated by officers during last year's demonstrations to a priority status